Hello, and welcome back to the Modeling Success in Action podcast. I'm your host, Jessica, and today I am joined by the confident and charismatic Anna Gradie. So, Anna is an executive coach, speaker, and tech founder, helping women in tech become confident leaders. She blends emotional intelligence, neuroscience, and real world leadership experience from her days as a COO of a fast scaling edtech startup. Her mission is to help women lead with impact without burning out or selling themselves short. That is a fantastic mission. So, welcome, Anna. It's so great to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for having me. It's an absolute honor to be with you here today.
So you help women in tech become confident leaders. So, I'm curious, what sparked your journey into coaching?
Well, it actually all started with a divorce. That was really the catalyst for this coaching journey. Back in 2010, I started the edtech company and scaled it into a successful business. We sold administrative software to school districts across North America, and that's where I saw the gender gap in the tech industry firsthand. It was really hard for us to hire and retain female software developers. And then in 2019, I went through a very painful divorce and hired my first coach. That was a completely transformative experience. And in that journey of exploring my core values, my purpose, I made the tough decision to take an exit from the company I had built, to take some time off to heal and to pursue other opportunities. And in this journey, I realized that coaching was my true passion. And my ideal clients, women in tech, and helping them navigate the male dominated tech industry.
So when you say that it was hard for the women in tech to be applying for that job, were you thinking that it was because they were feeling unconfident, like that they were, comparing themselves to the men, or thinking that they wouldn't even qualify for the job, or that they were having their own imposter syndrome? What was happening with those women?
So the women that applied to work at my company, or the women that I coach?
Well, when you were noticing the gap in the first place. So when you noticed the gap happening in hiring, did you start to put the pieces together there that it was a confidence issue?
Not at that time, no. I saw that there was simply a limited pool of female candidates because all the job applications came through my desk. And it made me wonder, why is there that gender gap in the industry? And then in my role as a coach and kind of being more in the industry the last couple of years, I've seen there are clear reasons for the gender gap in tech. Confidence is one of them. Lack of work-life balance is another. The gender pay gap in tech is quite persistent. Since the 1980s, there hasn't been much shifts there. And the lack of female role models at the top in tech.
Yes, a lack of role models, a lack of seeing somebody like you modeling that it's even possible. Totally. So then with your clients, what are some of the most common confidence things, blocks or issues that are coming up for these high achieving women, these women in tech?
Yeah. Well, you touched on one of them. Imposter syndrome definitely comes up a lot. These women describe feeling like a fraud, feeling like they don't belong at the table, and the stress that everyone's going to find out that they don't know enough and that they shouldn't be in that position. Negative self-talk is another common one. Ruminating over mistakes, kind of being scared to make any mistakes and not feeling supported. Another one is difficulty setting boundaries, working really long hours due to perfectionism or the kind of the pressure put on them in these work situations, and struggling to prioritize themselves, trying to balance the family with their professional life and just always putting themselves last and just getting close to burnout. It's really hard to juggle it all.
Yeah, that's a really common thing that gets in the way of pretty much everything for women, is trying to put everyone else first, whether it's, their career or their health or their, even their own personal goals or whatever. They're spending all this time being everything to everyone else and then wondering, why aren't I getting what I need? Why aren't I getting my needs met?
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of
So
my clients are, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was going to say, so how are you helping them move through these things? I'm so curious as to, what you've discovered, helps these women. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I really like to reframe imposter syndrome and normalize it. It's something that we all experience when we're in a new arena that we haven't been in before. And maybe it's an indication that you are on the right path. Change is scary. Taking on new challenges is scary. So that kind of reframe really, really helps. focusing on their strengths and showing them evidence and getting them to explain the evidence why they deserve the role and why they are competent and good at what they do. And then in terms of the negative self-talk, it's again reframing that, noticing when that kind of judgy voice comes in, quieting that voice with, again, evidence that counters the voice, even personifying the judge, coming up with a funny character or name. And you say, oh, that's that Judge Judy again, as an example.
Yeah.
And then boundaries, it's, yeah, being aware of what takes your energy, what gives you energy, and just having the tools to set those healthy boundaries in a clear and kind manner, and know that by looking after yourself first, you show up better at work, for your family, and for everyone.
Hmm. Absolutely. I mean, you really do. You can't pour from an empty cup, so to speak, right? So I I know that there must be when you were saying, personifying it and making it into like a, have a funny voice or be a certain character or whatever, you're adding humor, you're changing the mood around it. Because I see people time and time again, they have all the information, like a weight loss person. It's not like they don't understand how to lose weight, right? They've got all the details. Google can give you all, like, a customized plan just for you. And yet people aren't taking action on it. So how are you integrating like the emotional intelligence and like the somatic part of it, actually changing and shifting the mood around it, once they have this information and they can start to see the facts that they are just as qualified as the men?
Yeah, it's that self-awareness and understand the different emotions that we have and being able to put labels on these judgy characters or perfectionism or the avoider kind of saboteur that comes in and gets us to not follow through what we know is best for us. So it all starts with the relationship with you and kind of strengthening that, understanding what triggers you in terms of emotional intelligence and emotional regulation, and understanding what is best for you. And just that compassion piece is so big, even if you fall off the wagon, to kind of give yourself that resilience to keep going by treating yourself with love and kindness, because you have access to a powerful source of support 24/7. That's yourself. And you can choose to beat yourself up, or you can choose to treat yourself as you would a good friend.
Yeah, absolutely. And being willing, like that, it was a beautiful, to forgive yourself and, be willing to be kind and loving to yourself. Cause a lot of people are like, well, I've screwed up. I don't deserve this, loving compassion. I've got to punish myself or I've got to make it be exactly right. And that only adds insult to injury, right? It's only putting more pressure. It's going to make the situation more stressful. It's going to make it harder to perform, harder to do what you need to do in life.
It's really unmotivating.
Yeah. So have you seen how this, the role of this emotional intelligence, this willingness to be, dealing with the self, how it comes to play with these successful women? How are they putting it into action?
Yeah. So I always say that emotional intelligence is the key to leadership. It's your ability to recognize your own emotions, to recognize the emotions of others. It helps you read the room in those high stakes situations. It helps you express yourself. It helps you handle strong emotions and to have that emotional regulation so you don't get triggered at work or at home and kind of fly off the handle. And you kind of have that practice pausing before reacting, which is a muscle, and it just really takes practice to build that. And it starts out with that self-awareness. And the key to the communication that is emotionally intelligent is being able to leverage empathy to know your audience, understand the needs of the audience, and assertiveness. So being direct and being kind is being kind in the workplace. And so many of my clients are very, very empathetic, and they find it hard to have those difficult conversations and to be assertive.
Hmm. Being direct is being kind. It's so true, right? Giving the people the information they need in a clear way. And you're not, it's not like you're beating them up or, it's not a judgment. It's the feedback that needs to happen. And if we're, running around the bush or we're trying to like pussyfoot around it, it can really muddy the waters and make it so that the other person's leaving confused or hurt or not with all the things that they need. And that's not fair to them. That's not fair to how they need to be able to function in their job or their whatever their
Yeah.
role is.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
direct reports need expectations, need clear expectations.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So now I'm sure that that's something that comes up a lot, like women fighting back against that or pushing, going, but I feel mean, or I feel like, that word that women don't want to be called, right? So how do you help them move through that?
Yeah, there are some negative connotations. Being assertive is being aggressive, and I want everyone to like me and I want to be nice. So, yeah, it's an ongoing struggle with these women. And it's when they can channel that inner strength and see that being bold is essential to advancing in their careers and in their lives, they can kind of reframe that negative connotation and disregard it and know that they are serving their companies and themselves in a really productive way by being able to be assertive and to stand up for themselves.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So I know we've been talking a lot about confidence here, but when we say confidence, like what does that mean to you? Like what does that look like?
Yeah. So I've landed on a definition of confidence that really resonates with me and with some people that I work with. And it's the idea that confidence is your willingness to try. So getting outside your comfort zone, trying those new scary things, even if you feel scared, taking those action steps forward, and then treating yourself with compassion when you fail, because failure is a part of life and we need to learn from these failures to move forward. So it's that action taking, that getting outside your comfort zone, and then coming back to that relationship with you and being that source of support and love for yourself to kind of pick yourself back up, to give you the resilience to keep going with those hard things.
Yeah, the willingness to even take the actions. Yeah, that's totally the thing because a lot of the time, women especially, they feel a lot of pressure to make the quote unquote right decision, right? And they've got so much pressure on themselves. They're like, as a woman, if I screw up, it's 10 times worse than if a man screws up because it's almost like people are waiting for me to fail or to point and go, ha, see, I told you a woman couldn't do it, right? So there's all this pressure to have it be perfect or be right the first time. And that gets in the
Yeah.
way of people actually doing what they need to do, actually taking the actions, right? So sometimes it's okay to make it be messy or to do it scared, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's giving
Yeah.
yourself permission to make mistakes. And it's
Mhm.
not always possible in every work setting. Like, you don't always have psychological safety where mistakes are accepted. And that can be extra pressure put on women to be perfect in every sphere of their lives.
Yeah. Was this something that you had to grow through as well?
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
plus Anna. I've always been a perfectionist and I call myself a recovering perfectionist now. It's a lot of the deep work I've done in coaching to sometimes realize that good enough is good enough. And if you want everything to be perfect, it stalls you from starting and from doing those scary things that could really take yourself and your life to the next level.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, for example, how this podcast started when Anna and I got online this morning or to record this just now, my internet was being buggy and the video was all twitchy and hopefully when those of you who are listening are going, "Huh, I had no idea because it's seamless now." But for us it's a little bit crazy and it would have been easy to say, "Well, let's just do this another time," but we're here now and we want to have this conversation, so the willingness to even have it happen even if there's a few bumps in the road, that it's okay, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. Like I used to spend my life in my comfort zone. I didn't want to try new things. I didn't want to speak publicly. So it's been a real journey learning to do that, be okay with that. And it doesn't have to be perfect.
yeah, right. Sometimes it make it exist and then make it good, right? Yeah, right. And we can always improve, right? There is no arriving, so everything that we're doing, we can always give ourselves feedback on it, even if it's a spectacular failure. We're like, okay, great, I'm not going to do that one again,
Yeah. And now
right?
at the point where when there are those failures, it's like, well, what did I learn? And how can I convert this into a gift? Because there's a silver lining in every setback that we face.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it
And
kind of takes
sometimes,
you away from the negative emotions and gets you curious. Well, what did I learn here? And how can I do better next time?
right. Yeah. And sometimes the gift is like, well, I'm going to save myself time next time by not doing this. Or I'm going to, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's that compassion piece, right? That grace that you can give yourself that so many of us don't.
Mhm. So then, how, like, for people that are listening now and they're going, hands up, like, yeah, that's me, perfectionist, frozen, like analyzing all of that. Like, so how can somebody begin to rebuild their own confidence after they're feeling, after maybe they've pushed themselves too far, they've given to everyone, they're in the burnout stage, or there's been some failures or even rejections. Like, how do you start to move on from that, right?
Wow. So
Yeah.
I've said this a few times today, but the first step is self-awareness, creating a deeper relationship with yourself through journaling, through meditation, through yoga, hiring a coach or a therapist, leaning on your support network, and reframing that failure as feedback, looking for the gifts in these difficult situations, and really lean on your core values, like taking that step back, like what matters to me the most in my life, and what action steps do I want to take to live a life in alignment with my core values. I do a lot of core values work with clients, and that can be such a source of support. Like, think of core values like guideposts. They help you when you need to make decisions. They can help you when you realize that you're misaligned with a job or with an opportunity, with a partner, even. So I really recommend core values work. There are a couple of assessments online, I believe. But having that deeper understanding of who you are and what matters to you the most. And sometimes the way that you can tell is when things rub you the wrong way. That's a trigger that something's important to you. So when you get offended by something, that can kind of be an insight that might be a value that was stepped upon. So yeah, just strengthening your relationship with you and not being scared to ask for help. Like, we were meant to travel this world together with our communities around us. So a lot of my clients don't like to ask for help. So I always encourage people to do that. And humans want to help other people.
Yeah. Well, if you're struggling with self-confidence, sometimes the embarrassment of even saying you need help or saying you don't know something can feel so overwhelming that you don't even want to ask. I was working with a client this morning and she's going, I need this information to be able to do my job, but I've already asked for it a few times and I don't know why, but I just don't seem to be getting it. And I'm like, well, you need to ask again. Well, I'm so embarrassed. If I go back and I ask them again, they're going to look at me in a certain way. They're going to think that I'm a certain thing. And so what? It's got to be okay, right? If you need the information to do the job, if you need to be able to, to get that piece of that tool or that feedback or whatever, how do you move past the embarrassment?
Yeah. Well, I always say as well, like, you're not responsible for anyone else's reactions. Like, you can only control you and your behavior and how you show up. And yes, by all means, be persistent, ask several times to get what you need.
Mhm. Yeah. So that can feel a little crazy in the nervous system, right? When we're when we're gonna go and we're gonna put ourselves out of the comfort zone, right? Even if the comfort zone is like just speaking up in a meeting, right? And you get your heart racing, maybe your breathing quickens, maybe you feel the flush, maybe your face goes, red, maybe you start to sweat, right? And then a lot of people can start to judge even that nervous system reaction. So how can people start to play around with that?
Yeah, what's helped me is understanding that physiology that you described is the same as when you feel excited. So I tell myself I feel excited and encourage my clients to do the same. And instead of I have to speak up or I have to do this scary thing, I get to, and I'm going to have fun with that. That really
Mhm.
helps, a kind of shift in perspective to it being an opportunity, something you get to do, and you get better with practice. And
Yeah.
things are exciting, even if they are scary.
Mhm. Yeah, the practice thing, because a lot of people feel like they've got to be confident before they do it, but the confidence comes with the doing, doesn't it?
Yes, yes, it's that loop. It's the confidence competence loop, and it comes from taking those bold action steps, which builds you the confidence to keep going. And if you wait to feel ready, you might never start.
Yeah. So teach me a little bit about how you personally moved through being, A plus Anna to, it's good enough and I feel confident being me and showing up the way I am. How did you move through that?
It was hitting rock bottom with my divorce and having that laser focus into what really mattered and wanting more for myself, not wanting to always live in this little bubble of what I was comfortable doing. And it's kind of seeing the evidence when I said yes to scary things. Like, I was okay, even if it didn't go well. I survived. So it
Yeah.
was, yeah, working with coaches. It was completely transforming my self talk to be a cheerleader for myself. That was a
Mm,
game changer.
yeah. Even just showing yourself that you could go through something as, monumental as a divorce and still be standing and you didn't die, right? Even that is proof that you can be resilient through all kinds of crazy things. So, is there anything that, people who are maybe they haven't hit rock bottom, maybe they're in like the middle and they're just going, I'm not comfortable, but I don't know how to shift this. What about those people? What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, to even if it's like 10 minutes a day, take some time for yourself. Is it a walk around the block? Is it 10 minutes of journaling? Is it a quick yoga practice? Really invest in yourself. I recommend journaling. I recommend anything you can do that will connect to who you truly are. And surround yourself with people who uplift you. It's so important to have that network of support around you as you journey, because it's not easy.
Mm. So I had a conversation with somebody yesterday and he was telling me that he's been working with, a counselor for a while to move through an episode of some depression. And he's like, and what I've come to realize is I have a foundational imposter syndrome. Like foundationally, I am judging myself. And my question to him was, well, what if it wasn't a part of your foundation? What if it was no longer part of who you were? Right. So what if some
Ooh, I
people
love
they're
that.
thinking like they're right? Their true authentic self is this limited version. How do you shift who you think that you really are?
Yeah, it's having someone like you ask those questions. Like, what would be possible if you didn't have that belief in yourself? Challenging your own beliefs. And like I've said, journaling quite a few times, but that can really help to have a consistent journaling practice to understand some of your habits, understand some of your patterns, and question everything.
hmm Well, when we're journaling, we're making it visual because we're seeing it, and we're also being kinesthetic about it by writing, right? So it's activating different parts of our mind than when we're just talking to ourselves, when we're just looping those thoughts in our minds over and over and over again. It helps to organize them and to see them. So that, it can be a really awesome tool to get to move from.
Yeah, and there's
So
science
is there
behind it, like the power of putting pen to paper, typing.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I'm assuming that that's something you recommend to all of your clients then as like a jumping off point. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
So is there anything else that you'd like to leave with the listeners here before we wrap up this awesome conversation?
Yeah, just the idea that the most important relationship is the one that you have with you, and to set those healthy boundaries in your life, to conserve your energy, and treat yourself with love and compassion. I know it's not easy. We have often a lifetime of beating ourselves up, and it's really hard to break through those deeply ingrained patterns. But one step at a time, you can have a better experience and you can treat yourself nicer.
If people want to start to love themselves better, what is one place they can start? Would it be a journaling prompt? Would it be reflection on their own, gratitude? Would it even just be changing their thought patterns? Or what's one small actionable thing that people could do even as they end this, listening to this recording?
Love the question, and I have something that I think would be helpful. So, our brains are hardwired to focus on the negative for survival reasons. So, we need to retrain our brains to focus on the positive. So, what I often do, and I recommend that my clients do as well, is that when you're stressed out or at the end of a busy week, sit down and make a list of your top 10 wins. They can be little things, they can be I got to go for a walk yesterday. It can be something small, it can be finishing a project, something bigger, but really sit down and reflect on the week. What were my wins this week? And as you start writing things down, more things come to you. And then you really have this positive headspace where you can soak it in on the celebration of everything you have achieved. Because so often we focus on what we haven't done.
Yeah, it's true, right? You get to the end of the week and you're looking at all the items on the list that didn't get crossed off. But what if we celebrated the ones that did, right? Yes, I love that. Okay, so everybody who's listening, go and get a piece of paper and a pen, or open up a note thing on your phone, and once you finish listening to this, take the time, write down those 10 wins for yourself, and then celebrate them. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Anna. That's fantastic. So I'm going to be leaving all of your details in the caption below this podcast so people can reach out to you if they want to work for coaching one-on-one with you. But I know that you also do groups and you're in corporate talks as well. So if you're going, hey, all of the people in my office could really benefit from this, they can connect to Anna as well. So I think this is a wonderful, beautiful place to leave it. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for having me. It's a pleasure.